control the vertical.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host Mark. Today we are covering an episode of The Night Gallery. This is the 19th episode of Season 2 and it involves 3 particular stories. First is Deliveries in the Rear, the second is Stop Killing Me, and the third is Dead Weight. It first aired on February the 9th, 1972 on US TV. Interesting one. It's a mixed bag. There's one segment by Rod Serling and 2 by Jack Laird. And the Rod Serling one is very, very solid. And a real standout story, actually, but the other 2 are not so good. So the first one, Deliveries in the Rear, directed by Jeff Corey, written by Rod Serling. And here we are kind of seeing a Victorian, maybe, or turn of the century surgeon teaching pupils dissection. And we kind of see this surgeon who appears to be pretty good teaching students in a fairly unsympathetic way. For example, one man becomes slightly nauseous and he says, "This is not the place for you." You know, it's that kind of thing. And that surgeon is played by Cornel Wilde. Cornel Wilde as Dr. John Fletcher. We have a few other actors you kind of might know from early 70s American TV. None of them particularly jumped out at me, but they kind of looked vaguely familiar, particularly the love interest, who's played by Rosemary Forsyth as Barbara Bennett. Now, this surgeon, he's kind of driven, and basically we see that he's getting bodies from 2 dodgy looking men. It's a real Burke and Hare vibe, kind of questionable. Let's put it that where he's getting his bodies. And he basically they turn up and he kind of, one of the bodies has been decomposed too long and he won't give him a penny for it, but the other one is pretty good and they demand a sort of slightly higher price. It's because they got a business is business, right? John Fletcher pays up anyway. But we see he's an unsympathetic person, probably gifted from the feel of it, from his position and status, but not much of the milk of human kindness about him. And he actually proposes that the lives of sort of lesser people are not as important as learning anatomy and being able to serve the greater good. He says no individual life is better than the greater good. That is kind of how he deals with it. And as I say, one student feels fate and he kind of suggests he just doesn't come again, really. However, the Burke and Hare characters, we see him doing dodgy things. Dr. Fletcher notices the fresh one is fairly deceased and he seems a bit worried that perhaps this isn't the best way to procure bodies or subjects for anatomy. But he's not that bothered, obviously. He goes to visit his fiancée, who looks significantly younger than him, but her father brings up the subject. There's rumours that he is getting his cadavers from unsavoury places. And he then, at that point, he expounds about how he believes that it's possible that some might have been murder victims for some people. He doesn't say for himself, but he says, no doubt these people are kind of scum. And, they're serving a higher purpose now by teaching men. And he specifically says men because this is the 70s. And also the era, it would be men, wouldn't it, in medical schools. It helps to save the lives of other, better people. The father, Mr. Bennett, is not happy about this. And he actually says, how can a man so dedicated to saving lives be so ignorant of the sanctity of life? Interesting point. As he's going home, an old lady accosts him, accusing him of having a late husband off her late husband in his, laboratory. And she accuses him of desecration. I think her husband's name's Jack. He doesn't seem that bothered, but he denies that there's a man in his place at all. However, then the head of the school, Dr. Shockman, turns up. He has heard the same rumours, and he comes to Fletcher before class, and he says he's heard from this old woman saying that her husband is going to be on the electrical slab. Dr. Fletcher denies this and asserts he's got a female corpse, not a male. He hasn't. It's just his way of getting out of it. The head of the school suggests that maybe animals are a better way of teaching anatomy than humans, which Dr. Fletcher finds disgusting and really, really, rejects that sort of advice. However, the head of the school informs Dr. Fletcher that the police are coming because they've heard from this woman. They want to check it out themselves. Again, he insists it's a woman, but then he encounters his two grave robbing friends and says, look, I need a fresh female corpse as soon as possible. Knowing they're murderous and knowing they'll be under pressure, they charge, I think, $150 this time because it's so urgent. And they basically see a woman walking alone at night and do her in and deliver the body in the morning. Dr. Fletcher doesn't get a chance to do it, but it's just delivered as the police turn up, and he says, no, come and inspect, and we see the policeman go and look at the corpse and agree that it is a female. But the policeman also says, I think someday I will catch you red-handed doing this, so watch your step. So the men demand over $150, I think it's $100 for the corpse, and said, it was urgent, it's a buyer's market, a seller's market, and things like this. However, then Fletcher then goes on to start delivering his lecture with the woman underneath, and fair enough, when he turns up over the sheet, he sort of screams in abject terror. It's his fiancée. She was obviously out for a late night walk and got done in by the girls. So his own lack of conscience come back to bite him. Good story. Rod Serling delivers it well. It's a good length, 20 odd minutes, I think, and it's well done. I did actually think at one point the man was gonna turn over. What did I think? And it was going to be the wife under the body, which would then be full circle that, oh yeah, so the woman that reported you as stealing it is now one of your corpses. But no, it didn't turn out. It turned out this way. Yeah, so pretty good. Interesting name as well. Deliveries in the rear. That's kind of some sort of Freudian thing, I think, for this, how it ends up. But yeah, good story, well delivered, well directed by Jeff Corey. All right, the second instalment in this one was Stop Killing Me. This was directed by Jenna Schwartz, who always does an interesting job direction and does this. Jack Laird wrote this. It's too long. It's way too long. It's one of these punchline ones, and it goes on for nearly 15 minutes. The only thing that really saves it, apart from the direction, is Geraldine Page is this wife who's complaining her husband wants to kill her, or he keeps telling her he's going to kill her. And her sort of histrionics are really keep it entertaining and going along. And meanwhile, we got a police sergeant played by James Gregory, who's a familiar face, kind of sympathising and trying to pick the bones out of it. So he's trying to worry. He says she says things like, he just stops me and looks at me and says, I'm going to kill you. And she then recounts, why would she want to kill? Why would she want to do that? And gradually it emerges that she's a bit of a harridan. She's not as good looking as she was. She's bigger than she was. She's a nag. All these reasons. And all the while, the desk sergeant's looking at a picture of his really frumpy looking wife. and sort of saying, why would anyone want to kill their wife? And he'd look at his wife picture. And in the end, when she leaves, he gets her to leave by promising he's going to phone her husband and talk to him about all this behaviour. And when she leaves, we hear her screech of tyres and her car hit someone. You know, it's obviously her. We see the sergeant make a phone call. Basically, he invites the guy out for a drink to find out how he does it. So yeah, too long for this kind of silly one punchline thing. But as I say, Geraldine Page kind of delivers. The third story is called Dead Weight. This one's directed by Timothy Galfras. I think he went on to do other kind of interesting TV stuff, but I can't place him. Again, written by Jack Laird. This one is basically two faces you may recognise or not. An older man played by Jack Albertson, and Bobby Darin turns up as like a gangster who needs to leave the country in a rush. And Jack Albertson's this exporter that can get people out to other places, who's kind of proud of his record. He goes, I've been doing this for 49 years and never one complaint. Bobby Darin is this gangster who needs to leave town quick because he murdered someone, who rankles a bit at the $15,000 charge, but in the end agrees. And in the end, we see them toasting over sherry, and Bobby Darin pass out, presumably is poisoned. And the next thing we know, we see a container for dog food being exported to Argentina, the meat of it for dog food. So he obviously minces up people and, exports. Yeah, again, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, one punch joke. It was okay. Based on the short story called Out of the Country by Geoffrey Scott. And, it's acted fine, but it's, not great. So the real standout for this one was Deliveries in the Rear. Really quite good episode. Rod Serling does some really sterling work even in this late season 2 phase. So they're worth seeing. The rest are worth seeing, but don't expect too much, really, is the takeaway. So yeah, not a bad one all round, but the first story, Deliveries in the Rear, is by far the best of these. Okay, I'm going to wind it up there. Before I go, may I ask, is anybody out there?
I'm not.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to